What is going on, family? It is Click-Filet, and today I'm going to show you how I like to run the Lazarus Mutation as a tank. Also, why I'm wearing the tick armor, and a few tips within the expedition itself. So let's get started. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick reminder, there's 3 to 4 pieces of Ancient Ward armor that you can get out in the open world of Brim. I put it in a link in the description below. You can check that out after the video. And yes, of course, it does include the tick helmet, which does have Ancient Ward, which is actually the Goat King. But let's move on to Lazarus Mutation. So the first part of the mutation, you're going to want to pass Demesis, he's a named ancient, and go all the way to the bow. You can see I'm using the hammer here to taunt everything, and then I taunt with my sword and board. Someone has a great axe, which is always nice on the expedition itself to have, so everything's grouped. Now the healer should have had the sacred down by now, but I do have everything pretty much taunted, so it looks like he just put that down at the moment. Now, rule of thumb, you want to definitely go all the way to archers, because those archers tend to hurt your healer. Now for the next part, the healer usually is the one that's going to be hitting the symbols on the ground to spawn in more enemies, waves of enemies. For the most part, you're just going to keep these taunted by this wall until the healer hits one of the symbols that's going to go ahead and move this grouping over to the left. And you just want to make sure to stay ahead of that so that things aren't trying to get your healer before you get to the door. Now, if that does happen, just make sure to bring these enemies over to the other door so you can group them as they spawn in. For this part, you want to make your rounds and group everything up here and come back basically to the crawler. So you can notice my team actually moved a little bit too quickly, and then some crawlers got away, but just make sure to grab everything, especially the crawler, so it doesn't eat your healer or the person responsible for the gather bowls. So for this part, you can line of sight it right where I just passed, but most groups or pug groups that I run with like to go up to the side right next to the orb. So basically, as I grab these, someone will grab the orb, usually a DPSer. Then I'm going to hit this archer so nobody gets hurt, and then I'm going to taunt. So by the time you kill all those enemies, the door should actually be already open. As you can see, this group is a little slower, so as I go towards the door, I'm just going to go ahead and give this guy a little slam. But what you actually want to do is this door should be open, and you're going to run all the way in, and then you're going to taunt everything inside. Once you defeat them, that door should open. You're going to walk right past the swordsman, and then make sure you make your way all the way to the back archer. This part is about DPSing the archers, so again, that the healer doesn't get destroyed. So one quick trick actually with this, one DPS is going to go down, or someone needs to talk to the snake lady, Celia. All the rest can stay. After that, they just need to do a /unstuck, and you notice they'll actually teleport over here, because if you go next to the bridge, once you pass it, all those enemies are going to spawn. Once you head up these stairs, make sure not to pull the boss at all. You want to make sure to take out the archer and one swordman, and then stick as much as you can to the right. Don't fall down there, but stick as much as you can to the right, and then go down here to do an LOS. So after all those ads are dead, it's a lot easier just to fight the boss solo. So after that boss, you're going to want to journey to the back of this room. Watch out for that Lazarus Javanir. He loves to hit you in the back there. You want to make sure you grab these archers on both sides, and then drop off the back side of these stairs, and then you're going to line of sight everything. One thing to note, some ranged or healers will try to pull the boss also over to this line of sight. Now, it's not for every group, because I have seen some groups fail this part when there's too much plus the boss. So you can fight him in the next phase next to the door, but it is kind of nice to have a line of sight as well. Alright, for the snake lady, I want to make a suggestion for her, especially for the higher level mutations. Use your sword and board, but also use a hatchet. It's just better for survivability, especially if you're pugging and you don't really know what kind of healer you have. I would just say it's a little bit easier to do this with a hatchet. Now, one thing to note, she has a two-sided weapon. One is sort of a ranged one that doesn't hurt that bad, but when she goes and turns to the spear, as you can see, it will drain your stamina. Once your stamina's down, you're hurt. So make sure that when she switched to the spear that you do have your board up, your towering shield hopefully. Now if you do have a healer that has a void gauntlet, it's kind of nice to get that stamina back. As you can see with this healer, they're not really focused on that. Looks like they're just trying to keep the sacred ground down. So you are going to run into that with pugs, but with this you'll notice you want to make sure to keep switching and keep that board up. That way you can survive and tank well. Last tip, if you have shield rush, that'll give you some stamina back. So if your stamina is real low, you can pop that and get that back. So for the tank, what they're going to do, you're going to go to the middle of the 3 rooms. You're going to activate that with the rest of everyone. And then you're going to go ahead and step aside. That way you can just hold the enemies. You're not going to actually do a bunch of fighting. If you need to, use your shield bash or stun to stop the enemies, but it's nice to just go on this ledge so that you don't have to actually fight them until your allies join the room. After you defeat those rooms, over here you can just do a line of sight, pull the named archer, and then you can go ahead and defeat him here and then pull whatever you want into this room. Now, not everyone does this route. You can go right up to the archer and defeat him, but if you want to have a smooth run, you're not sure about the group, then just LOS. Now, after you open the room with the Azov staff, I would suggest grabbing these crawlers. That way it doesn't defeat your people trying to gather the platinum right through that hall, and your healer doesn't get bothered. Now what you're going to do is go first and just go ahead and collect all these ancients. Watch out again for that javelier, and just come all the way down to line of sight them as well. As you're aggroing all those ancients, someone should be grabbing all the gatherables in the back. There should be about 3 on the way. Now in this next part, it can be a little bit of a mess, but just make sure to grab everything and go to the archer. Get everything off your healer, keep taunting, but keep going to archers and grouping as much as you can. And then that pretty much sums it up for Lazarus Mutation. There is this little boss you can keep interrupting, but after this, it's just the main boss, and you could literally switch to all your DPS weapons, do as much damage as possible, and then at the end, get some nice Chartist gear, which is strength, and it gives you Ancient Ward. Well, everyone, I hope this was a helpful video. If you wouldn't mind helping me build this channel by giving a like and a subscribe, maybe a comment, I do appreciate it. It's just a couple clicks away. No pun intended. Also, there is a link to a cheat sheet in the description below that will show you some tank builds, DPS builds, and healer builds, making it easier to find the items you need and who drops them. Thanks again, everyone, for hanging out, and we will see you in the next video.